is Dahlia Goldenberg, and I'm the Associate Director of Families for Safe Streets, New York. I'm here to talk about relationship building through one-to-one meetings. A one-to-one is basically the oldest and best form of communication. It's two people sitting together, face-to-face, maybe breaking bread or sharing a coffee. We're looking into each other's eyes and we're seeing our shared humanity and just connecting. We even get a boost of oxytocin, the feel-good hormone, when we're in the presence of another person and we're feeling safe and connected. In a one-to-one, we're going to share a story about who we are and why we do the organizing work that we do for safer streets. And we're going to take the time to really listen to the other person. We draw their stories out of them, and we ask them questions to get them reflecting on themselves and considering deeper thoughts about who they are and what matters most to them. And through this relationship that we build, we can draw them in more deeply to our collective work for safe streets. Now, if the details of my training get too complicated for you at any point, don't let that hold you back. Keep it simple and remember that it's just about meeting up and connecting with someone. So to be more specific, a one-to-one meeting is a sit-down meeting between you and another member of your organization or potentially new member who you're hoping may join. The meeting should be in person if at all possible, and it should be planned ahead of time with intention and a commitment from both people to make the time for it. It should last between 30 minutes and an hour. Now let's talk about the purpose of the one-to-one. You might be doing this with a newer prospective member where you want to get to know each other and invite them into the work we do for the first time. Or you may be doing it to go deeper with an existing member. Regardless, there are going to be three main reasons for your one-to-one. The first reason is getting to know each other. The second is building the other person's leadership. And the third is getting the work done together. Now let's go a bit deeper into these three purposes. For the purpose of getting to know each other, you're doing this because you want to build trust, both ways. You also want to get a sense of their self-interest, what they really care about, and what will motivate them to take action with us. And you want to learn about their needs and their interests. For the second purpose of building the other person's leadership or involvement, you want to learn about their motivations and their abilities, and you want to figure out the best way for them to get involved. What are their strengths and skills that they can contribute? What role would they like to play? Are they an outgoing people person? Are they someone who prefers to come into the office and enter data into the computer to help out? How do they want to grow in this work with us? There's a place for everyone in this work, and we want to meet folks where they're at. And as a group of people who've experienced unthinkable trauma, our members' capacity and availability to show up and do the work can shift and change, right? And that is 100% okay. So let's look at the purpose of getting the work done together. It's a way to maintain a strong existing relationship. You can use it to prep for a meeting, to debrief after a meeting, or to work through conflict when it comes up. So those are the three main purposes of why you might sit down with someone for a one-to-one. Now, email and texting are great ways to stay in touch, and group meetings are essential. But you build more trust, depth, and alignment when you build relationships and hash things out one-to-one. It's about two people accountable to each other and remembering that they value their relationship. Now let's talk about the structure of a one-to-one. You've already called or texted the person to say that you'd like to sit down to get to know them better and talk about the work at FSS. After you sit down and make a bit of small talk, you want to make it clear that you do have a bit of agenda in this meeting. I like to say something like, I'd like for us to get to know each other more, and I'd love to hear your story and to talk with you about your involvement here. I'll go first and share a bit about my story with you, and then I'll ask you some questions, and I'd love to just learn more about you. Does that sound good? Then you're going to tell your story. After that, you'll listen to their story. You're going to listen and ask them a lot of questions and really dig in and get curious about them. And finally, you're going to make an invitation to take action with you. So first, let's dig into your story. Which aspects of yourself and your life story do you want to share with the person you're meeting with? What might help that person to understand you better, to feel trusting of you, or to see that you have something in common? Of course, it may turn out that your stories of how you've been affected by traffic violence are plenty for you to find something in common. But especially if we come from very different backgrounds, it can be helpful to find other commonalities too. Creates more of a sense of safety and connection. I might tell a kindergarten teacher who I'm meeting with about my 6-year-old son and really focus on him and how he reminds me of the safe future we're fighting for. So now I'll give you an example by sharing my own story. I grew up in York, Pennsylvania. In this suburban town, I grew up feeling really frustrated about the lack of transportation options. It was hard to just go see my friend in the evening because I needed my parents to drive me every time, or to go shopping or to the movies. I was frustrated about the fact that there wasn't any decent public transportation and that things were so far away from each other. The downtown area, the malls, the schools. And then my mom, who's a social worker, started telling me about how her clients were often missing appointments because their car broke down or because a friend who was supposed to drive them had to bail at the last minute. So this added a whole other dimension of concern for me. In my head, I had this whole vision and dream about a new bus system and different ways of getting around town, and I really wanted to see change happen, but I felt powerless. I didn't know how to do anything about it. I grew up, I got into a career doing community organizing and working on women's leadership. I really pursued that as my life passion, and I never worked specifically on issues of safe streets, but the frustration that I felt as a young person and the dreams that I had continued to be one of the most formative experiences that made me want to do community organizing. Then one night in 2012, I just arrived at my sister's house in Connecticut, and I got a call from my partner that he was at the emergency room, and he had been hit by a car and had his knee broken. It rattled me to the bone. We spent the next months at doctor's appointments, moaning in pain in the middle of the night, not being able to shake that thought from our minds that if that car hadn't stopped as fast as it did, we could have lost him. I got involved as an FSS member, and then just last year, I received an email that an 8-year-old boy was killed crossing the street 2 blocks from my son's school. And the fear and the powerlessness around crossing the street that I had developed after my partner's injury just grew. So when I saw that there was a job opening at Families for Safe Streets, I jumped at the opportunity. Now, I'm still terrified at the thought of my 6-year-old son getting hit, but getting involved has helped me overcome my sense of powerlessness about it. I feel like I can do something and make change, and every day is a real blessing to be able to work with other people who are turning their grief and their pain into action for change. So that's my story. Now you want to ask them for their story. It may be the story of the crash that brought them here, but you can also let them know that you care about who they are as a person and want to hear about other things in their life that really shape them too. So you're going to listen, you're going to ask a lot of questions, and don't be afraid to gently interrupt from time to time. You might want to ask more about the story that brought them to FSS, but you might also want to hear other stories about themselves. For example, here are some questions you might want to ask. Where did you grow up? What was an event that really shaped who you are? Were you ever involved in community change work before? What kind of work was that? What was it like? What are your biggest needs as a member of Families for Safe Streets? You might want to ask them about their loved one who they lost. What kind of person were they? What do you miss about them the most? After you've asked them some questions and listened, hopefully you've drawn out a bit of a story from them. Next, you want to educate them a bit and encourage them to get involved. You may take some time to educate them about your organization or about a specific policy that you all are working on. You want to help them understand the work you do and how they can participate. And you can be bold here too. For example, people have been complaining about that intersection for years. Why do you think nothing has changed yet? Would you be willing to help make that change? From what I've seen, when a group of people come together, especially someone who's had the experience that you've had, and they speak up, that's oftentimes just what we need to make the change. So finally, towards the end of the conversation, you're going to make an invitation. Ask yourself, what did this person just tell me about what motivates them? And I'm going to pause for a moment so you can think back to my story. What did I tell you about myself that might motivate me to join you in taking action? There are no wrong answers here, but I would suggest that if you were the organizer doing a one-to-one with me and you reminded me of that safe future that I wanted for my son, that would probably motivate me to take action. Then you're going to think, what do I want to ask this person to do next with us? What is the invitation I'm going to make? Am I going to ask them to join us on a lobby day in DC? Am I going to ask them to join a committee with me? Here's an example of how you can make the invitation. I've really enjoyed our conversation today, and I noticed that you have a really brave history of standing up and doing difficult things ever since you were a kid. I really love that about you. And I also noticed that you really care about sharing the story of your son. Now, a group of us are organizing a really big press conference together with the governor next month. And we need someone who's willing to stand up there and tell their story. Would you be willing to do that with us? And that's it. I hope this training helps motivate you to go out and meet with more community members one-on-one. It is a wonderful thing to sit down with someone and have the honor to gaze back at their beautiful face and listen to them open up to you. When we can connect in this way, I really think there is so much that we can do together.